What infamous movie plot hole has an explanation that you're tired of explaining? The Matrix Reloaded the scene where Neo is talking to the architect. The screens behind them are not other ones. It is the predictions the machines are making on Neo's responses. Most of the scenes are incorrect in those predictions, except for when Neo must choose between Trinity and all of humanity. The machines nailed that response on all screens. There was a whole topic on the front page a while back about The Truman Show, asking about what happens when Truman wants to sleep with his on-screen wife. Is that upsetting to her because she's just an actress? How do they avoid showing it on TV? People offering all kinds of explanations like he was raised not to know what sex is. I thought I was going crazy, because not only does the movie directly address this, two guys watching the show complain that the camera always cuts away when Truman and his wife go to bed, but it's an actual plot point in the movie that she's trying to have a baby with him so that they can start Truman Show Phase 2. And his obsession with a woman they kicked off the show years ago is ruining the director's plans. People sometimes wonder how Indiana Jones initially remained skeptical of the mystical events happening in the second film when he just witnessed a magical arc mass killing a bunch of Nazis in the first film. But that's because the second film is a prequel. How does Sarah Connor know which button to press to crush the Terminator in Terminator 1984? Because she accidentally presses it a few minutes earlier and it set the crusher off. What led the Terminator to find them. In Memento, people always wonder how a guy with short-term memory loss remembers he has memory loss. But he's conditioned himself to say it, just like Sammy was subjected to conditioning in the flashbacks. Friends. How did they pay for that apartment on their salary in New York? The very first episode, Monica mentions that her grandma owned the apartment and she would never be able to afford it otherwise. The flaw in the Death Star's construction. We didn't need Rogue One to explain it was a deliberate sabotage. So an exhaust port has a flaw. It is not unreasonable to believe that the flaw was necessitated for efficiency. Knowing that the flaw was inevitable, the trench leading up to the port was protected with gun towers. Tarkin, along with other officers, fully believed that the Death Star was superior in its construction, that small fighters would pose no threat to them. During the Rebel assault, an officer pointed out to Tarkin that the Rebel attack is exploiting this weakness and offers to prepare a transport for him, to which Tarkin responds, "Evacuate? In our moment of triumph, I think you overestimate their chances." To them, the weakness is negligible, that there is no chance a Rebel fighter would be able to drop torpedoes into the port. And they were right. The first fighter to make an attempt failed. Luke was only able to succeed because he used the Force instead of the computer, something no one anticipated because they all believed that the Jedi were extinct. Lord of the Rings, the Eagles, they are not a taxi service. They would be subject to the ring influence too. There are flying Nazgul that could intercept them. There is a big fucking spotlight eye that could shine on them the moment they approach the border of Mordor. Failing all that, an entire army of Orc could wait at Mount Doom, making any approach impossible. Edit. The Eagles are sentient and sapient. They are not mindless beasts that just do whatever the rider wants. Edit 2. I'm not a Tolkien expert. I'm a dungeon master and have to smack down my players' crazy ideas all the time. Edit 3. They could be carried part of the way. Oh? With Saruman, the White, and his Raven spies everywhere, and the ability to target Blizzard and force the Eagles to land in an army of Uruk-hai. The Eagles are demigods and more susceptible to the ring's power. It works in proximity too. Boromir fell under its influence. Gollum killed his brother only just seeing it. Heck, the Council of Elrond almost came to blows being near it. Galadriel lost her shit for a good minute just being offered it. Jack and Rose couldn't both fit on the door in Titanic. In the movie, they try to both get on the door and it capsizes because the door isn't buoyant enough with both of them on it. Jack then gets off the door so Rose can get more of herself out of the water. It's in the movie. They try to do it in the movie and it doesn't work. It doesn't matter how much surface area the door had. It's the buoyancy of the door that was the problem. Dark Knight Rises. How did Bruce Wayne magically get to Gotham after he escaped the hole? 1. In an adjacent scene, it's mentioned the bomb will go off in a month, so we can assume that's how long he has to get back to Gotham. 2. Wayne Enterprises has offices around the world. All he needs to do is get to an office, log in, and wire himself money or supplies to get home. He's Batman. He can easily do this without being noticed. 3. Batman Begins has a whole sequence of him traveling around the world penniless and nameless. This is a specific skill it's already established he has. There are tons of plot holes in that movie, but for some reason people get hung up on the easiest one to explain. Not a bad one, but the DeLorean in Back to the Future always being brought up in conversations as, actually, it was a really crappy car. Like, yes, that was the joke. Marty even asks Doc incredulously, "You built a time machine out of a DeLorean?" The car became famous because of BTTF. Before then, it was a laughingstock. Horridly underpowered with a shitty European V6 and incredibly fragile transmission, massive QC issues, and John DeLorean himself was a tool. I've said this for a while now. I'll defend the movie Home Alone with my life. Kevin got left behind because his family was mad at him and obviously didn't like him that much. He was in his room and there was so much chaos. Also, other factors, such as we see his passport ticket being accidentally thrown away and a neighbor kid snooping through the van accidentally gets counted. Why didn't Kevin call the police? The phone lines were down. We also see Kevin's mom talking to the police, but they don't care or take her seriously. Also, it is likely that Kevin didn't trust the police because the burglar disguised himself as a cop. Kevin recognized his golden tooth. The thing people bring up that has some validity is how Kevin pulled off the traps and how he had some of the stuff he used. For this, it's just expected to suspend your disbelief because it's a comedy for kids. But also, some things are plausible. I can fully believe that young boys in the 90s had a Michael Jordan cardboard cutout that stormtroopers can't aim. Most of this complaint arises from A New Hope, where yes, in the scenes in the Death Star, they are terrible. But here's the thing. They're being terrible on purpose. They need the rescue mission to happen successfully because tracking Leia back to the Rebel base is their main priority. She's not giving up the location of the base, so they've now got a perfect chance to track her. As for the abundance of times they could have killed Luke or Han on the Death Star, and why didn't they kill at least one of them? Because surely only one of them is the pilot, right? Well, they don't know which one is, and if they kill the wrong one, then their plans are ruined. Also, they can't kill Leia because then they would just abandon their mission. Leia even says that the getaway was too easy and they let them escape, which Han blows off, but she's 100% correct. For the rest of series, we see them being pretty accurate, TBA. Getting taken down by Ewoks was a bit embarrassing, but those things are goddamn murder teddies.